Hello, welcome back to the road to episode 8, my ongoing series where I chart the road to the release of Star Wars episode 8, The Last Jedi, on December 15th, 2017. And in this video and the next few videos I'll be talking about Star Wars Celebration Orlando. Unfortunately this year Celebration fell on awkward timing for me, so I wasn't able to watch most of it, unfortunately. The last 2 years I've done kind of like daily update videos of all the big news and stuff. Wasn't able to do that this year whatsoever. I was doing my 24-hour movie marathon, so I just got to catch the two big panels, the 40th anniversary of Star Wars and the Last Jedi panel. So this video I'll be talking about the 40th anniversary panel, the next video I'll be talking about the episode 8, the Last Jedi panel, and then in the third video, moving forward, I will cover Star Wars Battlefront 2 and other bits and pieces after I've gone back and checked out some more of those panels. And then I'm going to do a full teaser trailer breakdown like I've done before in the past, going through every shot of the new trailer and talk about my thoughts on everything that we can see in the trailer. But if you want to have some kind of in-depth thoughts from me on the teaser trailer beyond my initial reaction, you can check out a video right now that I did for joblo.com that is in the description of this video, and it'll be a link at the end of this video as well. So I've got you covered for all Star Wars stuff, it's just taken me a while to get there. So let's get right into it. Celebration Day 1. They kicked things off in style with the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. They said to make sure you check it out because there would be surprises, and boy did they deliver. I mean, I really wasn't sure what to expect from this panel. I knew that they'd announced Hayden Christensen, so I thought, okay, maybe some prequel actors will come into the mix. Obviously Mark Hamill's going to be there, but I wasn't quite sure what to expect. And boom, right out of the gate, we had Warwick Davis hosting, and he brought out George Lucas. I didn't quite expect this, and especially not in the capacity that he was in there for. He came out first. Warwick talked to him for a while, showed him a letter he'd written him as a kid, very sweet. And George was there for the entire panel, and they brought a rotating kind of cast of characters out onto the sofas on stage to speak to George and Warwick and the crowd about their time in Star Wars. We had Ian McDiarmid and Hayden Christensen coming out, Vader and Emperor. That was a nice kind of pairing. In fact, they brought out Dave Filoni at first, and I thought, oh, so maybe we're not getting any big names on this one. But that was almost like a bit of a smokescreen, because then they brought out Hayden and Ian, and then they brought out, I think it was after that, Anthony Daniels, Peter Mayhew, and Billy D. Williams, C-3PO Lando, and Chewbacca, and that was nice to see those guys. And then Mark Hamill comes out, and then the big one, Harrison Ford. Now that was the real holy shit moment for me. I couldn't believe that they've got Harrison Ford to do this. I mean, it's not that I couldn't believe it, but it seemed pretty far-fetched to get Harrison Ford to come to do something like this, knowing who Harrison Ford is. And right from the get-go, he's cracking jokes and making, you know, light of the whole Star Wars thing. And but he was very game, and it was all a bit. There was nothing too in-depth in there. And there is one kind of problem I have with Celebration these days. And I don't think it's a problem that needs to be changed or rectified. It's a problem that's always going to be there. For fans like me, we've heard all these stories before. George, where did the inspiration from Star Wars come from? You know, Mark, what was it like to be Luke Skywalker? You know, Harrison Ford, did you really think that Star Wars would go on to be as big as it has 40 years later? We know all these stories. We know the story of Mark Hamill coming out and saying, you know, the line about fear is their greatest defense, and he does that whole spiel. I mean, you've heard it time and time again. If you're a fan like me and you watch all those behind-the-scenes interviews and panels as well, I mean, the past 2 years we've had Mark Hamill, we've had Ian McDiarmid come out and tell all those stories. I must have heard the Ian McDiarmid story about the scene where he did the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, that awesome scene in Revenge of the Sith, and there was some dust caught in his throat or something, so he felt horrible that day. I mean, he's told that story so many times now that it's just, yeah. But there are people who go to these celebration events who haven't heard these stories, and so that's awesome for them. But it can get a little bit tiresome if you're watching these every year and you get the same stories. But again, I don't think it should be changed, or they should come up with new stories or anything like that. I'm just saying that the people who do hear it over and over again, it gets a bit tiresome. A minor, not even a complaint, because again, like I said, there's going to be new people coming into this, and so it's great for them. And it would be a shame if new people came to these celebration events or watched them online and they're new fans and they miss out on those stories, you know. So I am a fan of them being told. And then we had the tribute to Carrie Fisher. Obviously, it felt right for them to do this. George Lucas and Kathleen Kennedy talked about Carrie for a couple of minutes, and then they brought out her daughter, Billie Lourd, who had this dress that was very much Leia inspired, which is quite sweet, and she gave a very nice speech that must have been hard to do, you know, 4 months after losing your mother unexpectedly, to come out in front of all these people and to give a very eloquent and heartfelt speech, and to have a bit of fun with it as well, and recite the "Help Me Obi-Wan" speech perfectly was a great moment, and she did her mother justice with that. And then they showed an amazing tribute video that, you know, usually when a celebrity dies and they do a better tribute video, it's very dour and, you know, sad music and kind of, you know, just makes you feel really sad about it. But this one was a bit more infused with a Carrie Fisher punch. It had those moments where she's kind of joking with people in interviews and stuff, and kind of being her irreverent self. And they played kind of punchy music as well, but they still kept it quite emotional at the same time. It was a very nicely edited together piece, and in that piece we saw the first look at Leia from The Last Jedi, as there was a behind the scenes shot of her and Rian Johnson. And I noticed people were all over that, like, first look at Leia in Episode 8, and I'm like, well, that's from a tribute video, calm down, let's just concentrate on the proper thing here. And then, I mean, again, they just kept on going. They finished the tribute video, and the curtain gets pulled back, and there's John Williams with a full orchestra. Well, not a full orchestra, but a decently sized orchestra, and everyone lost their shit. And he turned around to kind of say, okay, quiet down, I'm going to play some music now. And it was like the opening of Gravity, just the sound just completely stopped, and he played Princess Leia's theme, or conducted it, and it was beautiful. It really, really was, and it was so sad and touching and perfect. And then he conducted the Star Wars theme, a nice uplift. And again, I felt like it was very nicely handled. And George Lucas came out and said John Williams the greatest composer in the universe, and I agree. So that was the 40th anniversary panel. It was really enjoyable for them to celebrate Star Wars in that kind of way, but it was very rapid fire, and you know, you didn't really get into any meaty kind of discussions except with George at the beginning. And it was great to see George there. I know he's not that comfortable with these kinds of things, just purely out of being an introvert from what I can tell. He's a very shy and, well, maybe not shy, but a quiet person, a reserved person. So to come out in front of a crowd and try to entertain them was not really his thing, but he did his best to tell the stories that he was asked to tell, you know, and said, you know, hey, they probably don't want me to say this right now, you know, and no one ever likes hearing it, but I made those films for kids, you know, for 12-year-old kids. And when he said that, I was just imagining all the adults in the audience who probably were getting a little hot under the collar, you know, but I like his honesty. It's refreshing. He talks about how the studio system will eat you up and spit you out if you let it. Like, he was brutally honest in some of the things that he says, and that's always the way he's been. Sometimes to his detriment, and white slavers. Yeah, that, you know, comments like that sometimes slip out of George Lucas's mouth, and I was kind of like, oh, is he going to say something really bad? But he didn't, thankfully, and it was great to see him there. The guy who created this 40 years later, to see the fan response and everything. I'm sure it must have felt good, but I know that he's not super comfortable with those kinds of events and things like that, which is why you don't see him at them so much. And knowing how it feels like his relationship with Star Wars has been fractured somewhat. You know, I don't think he's the biggest fan of the new movies and stuff like that. I know that they kind of threw his treatments for 7, 8, and 9 out of the window and did their own thing. And, you know, in an interview he gave a couple of years ago, he said that, as far as me and Star Wars are concerned, I'm paraphrasing here, it's like a breakup. You know, you got to just, you know, you got to completely separate yourself from it, and it kind of felt sad to hear that. But so it was nice to see him at this event and to celebrate the anniversary. There were other panels I didn't really get to see, like, you know, actors coming out and telling stories. Again, the Ian McDiarmid one, which I caught a bit of, and again it was stories I'd already heard, but I love Ian McDiarmid. He always kind of plays this thing when he comes out of these events where he's like, oh no, I'm not going to do the Emperor voice or anything, and then he does it, you know, and like, you can tell he loves it, like he wants to do it, you know, he wants to be, like, there was this one part where Warwick Davis was saying, oh, the Emperor laugh is so good. He's like, oh, you want to hear the laugh, do you? Is that what you're trying to get at? And it felt like he was the one who's thrown the hook rather than Warwick, you know. So I think that he secretly really loves kind of performing for those people, and that's awesome to see Ian McDiarmid get into the role like that and kind of do some Emperor lines and things like that. Anyway, that's it for the day one panels. I didn't see anything else of note. Day 2 had some more substantial stuff, like Mark Hamill's tribute to Carrie Fisher, which I haven't seen yet, so I'm going to go back and watch that. And then in the next video I will talk about the Last Jedi panel. One piece of news to talk about to wrap up this video is that I talked about last time that Todd Fisher, Carrie Fisher's brother, said that she's going to be in Episode 9, and that they have footage that they're going to use in that film that they've already captured, obviously. And so Kathleen Kennedy was interviewed around the first day of Celebration, or maybe day 2, and said, "Can you clarify these comments?" And Kathleen Kennedy was like, "Yeah, she's not in episode 9. He must have got confused. She's not in episode 9. She passed away in December, but she will be in episode 8, and her role is substantial." So that's interesting, because I kind of read a rumor a while ago that Leia might be not in the movie that much, but apparently it seems like that's not the case. And from what I've seen, and from what I know, it does seem like Leia will have a more prominent role in The Last Jedi, which is nice to know, given that it will be her last performance. And it is kind of sad to know they don't have anything to use in episode 9, and they're going to have to deal with that, I guess, when they get to it. So that is it for now. Let me know thoughts on the 40th anniversary panel if you saw it, any thoughts, and I'll see you in the next video.